the Around the NFL podcast. Live from New York, it's Sunday night.
Well, California, from the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus. I got heroes here. Marc Sessler, not Chris, I wish Chris was here. Gregg Rosenthal. That's weird.
He's here.
He is.
Sometimes when you walk in and you see the name, you just walk by. And then there was other times where you just see it and you just it kind of stops you in track. It can be good. It can be jarring, but it's like, I still can't believe that we walk into this studio with his name on it in front of us every day.
It is bittersweet. Yes, so we are in the Chris Wessling podcast studio. The Week 7 flagship program is here, and we're just looking for a few good teams. That's what it's now on Sundays, an investigation. Where are the good teams? There have to be good teams.
They're all in New York.
Well, we have some teams in New York.
We're also waiting for Jesus to return, and the likelihood of finding a patch of good teams is about equal at this point. So
we know we have the Bills.
It's like the NFL just took the live stream down.
Well, I'm just saying,
check us out on YouTube.
Save it for the theology show, Mark. We know that the Bills are great. They're on bye, so not that they need to be part of the investigation. We know the Chiefs are very good. We're going to get to that in a second. We know the Eagles are undefeated. Let's see if we could find some teams that that qualify as good by the end of today's episode. That's a little challenge for both us and the listeners and viewers of the live stream. So, yes, are you guys ready to dive into some football?
I'm very ready today. I enjoyed this afternoon.
I'm in a little bit of a state of mourning because of some news that came down around the most impactful young Jet on offense in a very long time. So I am very much in professional mode right now and processing the grief, while also knowing we have work to do here.
You are, many of the adults that I know who are football fans, you are a dyed-in-the-wool, true Jets fan who spent the weekend tracking the Yankees, too. It's been an up-and-down journey for you. So you are a professional, Dan.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. All right, so without further ado, the professionals roll on. Let us start this week, with one of the teams that we know very good. The team they were playing, not so sure. Maybe, maybe not. Well, let's see what happened between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Time to throw over the middle. Juju Smith-Schuster wide open. 25-20. Jukes the safety. 10 gets a block. Angling near side pylon. Touchdown, Kansas City. It is yards after catch all day long. A 45-yard touchdown reception by Juju Smith-Schuster.
And we know Mitch Holthus of WDAF is all class all the way. But a little... Yeah, yards after catch all day long. Oh. Everybody calls the 49ers the Yak Brothers, but look what
we're the real Yak
Juju
Bros.
Smith-Schuster and company are doing for the Chiefs, who roll to a 44-23 win over the Niners at the Big Bell Bottom. Mahomes throws for 423 and 3 touchdowns, and Kansas City comes back from double-digit down here, boys, and they do it. It's actually, you think about this game, and it just ended, a few minutes ago. They were down double digits in this game, but that's what they were early on. But once that Kansas City machine gets going, it's really a sight to behold still, even now. Even more impressive now, Greg, because Tyreek Hill's not there anymore, and he's ancient history because this team is generating more big plays downfield now than they were last year when they had the greatest downfield playmaker of this generation.
I think that was what was missed in the Tyreek Hill discussion in the offseason. Yeah, maybe they're not back to where they were when they were in the playoffs. And what was the score in that Texan divisional round game? 24-0, and you just expected them to come back. But a year ago, that was the worst Chiefs offense of Andy Reid's life, including when he had Alex Smith. And they weren't going to stay down at this level, and he tinkered, and he fixed some things up, and he's got the Michael Jordan of football, and suddenly you're putting 9.1 yards per play. Per play.
Get out of here.
On the number one or maybe the most talented defense in the league.
I mean, that said, there were obvious questions, and I think fair concerns about whether Juju Smith-Schuster would become a force in this offense, whether Marquez Valdes-Scantling would. They both have 100-plus yards today, and the deep passing game from Mahomes is totally on, and they are yards after the catch. It just seems like every week it's a different person stepping up, and I kind of love their versatility, which before it really boiled down to Tyreek Hill, to Travis Kelce, and now you don't know which guy's going to wind up playing hero. And I think the last couple of weeks, too, Juju has looked great.
He has. He really feels like you could tell he's getting more and more comfortable in this offense. You kind of forgot how, even though he's not the flashiest player in terms of athletic ability, what a big-time playmaker he was for the Steelers before Ben got old, and then everything kind of downshifted in Pittsburgh. Now you see him playing with a big-time quarterback, the best quarterback in the league, arguably, and I think that's kind of the skeleton key here as well. I mean, it's Mahomes' greatness, which is his ability to lift others up, and I'll say this because you were challenging Aaron Rodgers to do the same thing at Green Bay, and I think Aaron Rodgers is an all-time quarterback himself. But it's not that easy. But Mahomes makes this stuff look easy, and it helps that Andy Reid is there to help him along the way.
Right. Andy Reid helps with the structured plays and the schemed-up plays, and they came up with plenty of those. But Mahomes makes the plays that almost no one else can make. I know he had the late interception last week. I think on a week-to-week basis, he would have my nod as just the best quarterback in the league thus far.
I think it's tight.
And this is a ridiculous number to put up at the end of the season in kind of the MVP race and everything, to do this on the 49ers of all teams.
It's tight with Josh Allen, and there are different types of quarterbacks. But I think sometimes what I feel gets lost with Mahomes is that he makes these flashy sidearm throws and does stuff that looks video game arcade-like. But he just does the basic quarterback stuff as well as anyone in the league. And when they're throwing the ball this way, I know the Niners are a little banged up, but against a defense like this, it's like, I don't know what the ceiling is for the Chiefs. I don't think there is one.
And on the Niners side of things, of course, this was the debut of Christian McCaffrey, who had a role. He had 10 touches in the game, looked good, especially early on some runs. And, it just does show you that Jimmy G is ultimately, the stat line looks fine, but he threw an absolutely dreadful interception in the final seconds of the second quarter that kind of changed the complexion of this game. I know the Niners kind of got back into it a little bit at one point in the third quarter before Kansas City just put their foot on the pedal again. But Garoppolo's interception there is just kind of a reminder that he's not special. And when you get into these situations with the Niners being compromised on defense because of the injuries, it's going to be a problem in these types of affairs.
He looked really good early on, and it was kind of like, when everything around Jimmy G is functioning and he's in his accuracy mode, he's fine. But, I mean, late in the game, it was concerning to see him just sort of walk into a sack. That was a big problem. Then on the next play, Frank Clark goes right around Trent Williams and devastates him in the end zone. Like, everything just started to fall apart for them.
Right. Their recipe is what their recipe kind of was in that Super Bowl until the fourth quarter. It's running and it's defense. And they are banged up, and they will get more players back, like Eric Armstead. But they did have a lot of their guys back today. Now, maybe they don't play at their very best in their first game back. Like, Bosa was back. Charvarius Ward did end up playing in this game. They get McCaffrey. They get Trent Williams back. I just think it's just a reminder to me that the Chiefs and the Bills, you're talking about those good teams. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of those good teams are in the NFC. It doesn't feel like to me. And that these two teams are kind of in one bucket, and the Eagles are this new team, and I almost put them in their own separate thing. And then there's everyone else, because the 49ers are 3-4, and yet they're probably not in a bad spot really in the NFC West or the NFC in general.
How about this, Greggy? Let's go through it scientifically.
Okay.
As we stated at the top of the show, Chiefs, good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Maybe great.
Yeah, I could say great potentially.
But yeah,
okay.
They're good.
We're looking for good right now.
Okay.
We're
going to figure out great. 49ers, good?
Good.
I think they are good. I know they lost this game.
I'll just go by majority rules, but the 3 and 4 Niners are good.
You're good if everyone around you is a sinking ship.
Hey, this is science.
Right.
Science is science.
They are 3-4. It's a very fair point to make after 7 weeks. Not really a hallmark of teams that you would call good.
Let's check in with North Texas to see if we can find some more goodness.
Oh.
3 minutes, 1st and goal at the 1. Prescott under center, Pollard motion right. Handoff Elliott, burrowing on the left side. Wait for a signal, touchdown. 2 for Zeke, touchdown Elliott. That might be enough.
And it was. Brad Sham, the Sham God, KRLD. Zeke Elliott ran for a pair of 1-yard scores. Dak Prescott threw a touchdown in his return to the lineup after thumb surgery, and that Cowboys defense did what it does, forcing 5 turnovers and a 24-6 over the No, I won't do it yet.
Well, you could.
I could, but I won't.
Okay.
Over the struggling Detroit Lions. A game here, Greg, that also featured, and we'll get into really the flashpoint of the game, Dallas recovered Jamal Williams' fumble inside its own 1 with a 4-point lead early in the fourth quarter. I guess that was it.
It was because there just wasn't enough consistent offense from either team that at that point you realize it just wasn't going to be the Lions' day. It was the third time they had turned it over. Goff had a couple late ones, but he also had 2 ugly picks. Its game looked like 2
How many picks for Goff here?
Yeah, two interceptions.
And 2 fumbles.
Yeah, the 2 fumbles were in garbage time, but they had 3 killer turnovers, including that Jamal Williams one, even before garbage time. It was a 10-6 game, and the yardage was even, and that even with 3 minutes left in the game, it was still 10-6. So it was close, and yet the Lions just find a way to mess it up. Their offense now 2 straight games after everyone talked about like this is the number 1 offense in the league has scored 0, and then they scored 6. So that's no touchdowns.
It's troubling.
In the 2 games they have a combined 8 turnovers, I believe, or 7 turnovers. And Goff was flummoxed, and I love how the Dallas defense has more than just Parsons. Parsons had a good game, but Sam Williams had a monster game, this rookie pass rusher. It's just like new guys pop up each week with a couple sacks.
I mean, the Cowboys could beat anyone in the league outside of maybe, I think, Buffalo and Kansas City.
Cowboys good?
I think they are because I think they have a great defense.
Give me a check mark. Give me a ding.
I think they have a great defense. And also, I mean, you are causing some of these turnovers. If you're the Lions, you wanted at this point to be 3-3 maybe. You need to not be making mistakes that absolutely crucify yourself. Your second half drive
What's with all the Jesus stuff in this episode?
All right, that caused you issues. I wasn't trying to go there necessarily.
I said the theology episode.
I mean, but it's so Lions, and we apologize to the Lions fans at this point.
Why?
So this is our fault.
What did we do?
It's not our fault, but
it's our fault.
If I was a Lions fan, we didn't need to. We picked them as team around the NFL, and they've lost 5 straight. So it was just very Lions. Where that play where he fumbled on the 1-yard line, Dan, they had a nice reception. He was going in, looked like he scored a touchdown. They could have challenged. Dan Campbell could have challenged it. He decided not to because it was 1st and goal. Replay showed they actually probably would have moved the ball forward. Like a half of a yard because it was a bad spot, but it wasn't a touchdown. So it wasn't like a crazy non-challenge. And then Jamal Williams, who fumbled, that was his first lost fumble of his career. He's in year 6. So it's not like there's something you can coach here. It just is like this is what happens when you're a Lions fan.
Well, you know what else happens? Dan Campbell now, I believe, 4-18-1 as a head coach, and this is becoming something of an unfortunate tradition on this show on Sunday nights. Let's listen to sad Dan Campbell.
I'm frustrated from losing, just like I was last year, just like I was anytime I lost, just like I was at New Orleans when we lost a game. And, you don't like to lose games, but I'm not down and I'm not losing confidence. I'm not going to go hide in the corner.
This is the sad Hard Knocks music. If someone gets injured or gets called into the GM's office for a chat, I feel like that's where we are. It does feel like a long time ago now that Jamal Williams was the comic relief of the Hard Knocks summer episodes that were so well received. And if you want, go resurface the Hard Knocks podcast this week.
I think you should. I think people should probably listen to it in its completion.
So the Lions at 1-5. It's more of the same, unfortunately, for that team.
It is, and I think Goff has shown his limitations. Remember early in the season, I was trying to say I don't think he's playing like that well.
He was producing.
He was in the system, and they had bad luck. Amon-Ra St. Brown returned for this game and then left after the first couple of plays with a concussion. DJ Chark, who was supposed to be their number 1 receiver, is now on injured reserve. That was a late week addition to injured reserve for Chark. And DeAndre Swift didn't play in this game. So they've had terrible luck, and they happen to show up on the week, Dak Prescott shows up.
Yeah, I thought Prescott got better
Let's hear from
on.
Zaddy on Dak.
Ooh.
I thought Dak performed better as the game went on. I think it's like anything. It's the first time he's been out there in quite some time. But starting with the command of the huddle and the whole operation, I thought he was really on point there. Handled the adjustments that were going on during the course of the game. So, those are the little things that don't show up in the, or they're big things that don't show up in the stat columns.
I like that I have the same analysis as the actual NFL head coach here.
Zaddy, stop it.
Oh, please.
He was out of rhythm. I don't think he had a couple incredible throws like in the third drive of the game, but for the most part, their offense wasn't great. It was successful when they were running straight at Detroit. But that's one of the reasons why the Cowboys are good. I think their offensive line has gotten better, and they can run the ball, and they did today in the key spots. They have a great defense, and they have an experienced quarterback who didn't play great today, but on that game-winning drive or game-sealing drive, really, he had a 3rd and 8, and they were showing pressure, and then he changes the play before the snap, and he picks the exact receiver to hit, and then they end up running in a few plays later. Like, that's the Dak Prescott experience you weren't getting with Cooper Rush.
And that's why it's unanimous. The Cowboys are good. The Lions, we don't even have to call to vote.
No, decisively good, the Cowboys.
Let's move to Charlotte, where the Tampa Bay Bucks are obviously good. They have Tom Brady, right? So they were going to cakewalk against the Panthers, and that's what happened, right?
Negative.
What? Spoiler alert.
Walker the snap, fires downfield. Tommy Tremble's open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Panthers! That's gorgeous.
I like that. Who was that? Anish Shroff, and that was either Jake Delhomme or Luke Kuechly on WBT saying, that's gorgeous.
What a crew. We need more Panthers highlights this year. Delhomme and Kuechly in the booth.
Turn up the tremble. Because the Carolina Panthers, I think they were 13.5-point underdogs. And what do? They hang a 21-3 win on the Bucks. The Bucks and Tom Brady. What the hell is going on here? Mark, everyone saw it. The worst drop of the year was Mike Evans all alone, which would have been a long touchdown on the 3rd play from scrimmage, and that was the closest they ever got to scoring.
I think that set the tone. And their offense has become an increasing calamity. And today, you can see everyone's frustration. It's not just Brady. That drop was one of the worst drops I think we've ever seen during the run of this
bad.
podcast.
I mean, it was a drop.
It's also who it was.
Borderline
Right.
Hall of Fame. This isn't Alan Lazard on opening night.
No, that would have unhooked them, I think. And I think it's just like they're not mentally tough on offense right now. When things don't go well, you can just see it seems to catch up with them. I mean, there are other examples because they were down 7-0. This game was a mess for a long while. They were down 7-0 midway through the 3rd quarter. It's 4th and 1 at the Carolina 25. Leonard Fournette stuffed. Drive over. 3 straight incompletions from at the Carolina 8 on a later drive where they scored. They end up kicking a field goal when they were down 14-0. I don't even know why you're kicking a field goal at that point. You got to get a touchdown, I think.
What? That's an insane
says
field
a lot.
goal.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It bothers me.
Call off the Bolzasons. Call it off.
I mean, it's not happening for him right now.
It was 4th and 8.
Some season to go, but that field goal
that was
remove the Suns.
That was a mess, and it tells me how much they don't trust what they can do. It was 21-3.
Remove the Suns.
It's 21-3. It's 4th and 8
Mark.
from the Carolina 28. Brady is lucky he doesn't throw a pick. I mean, it's just like Brady is not – he'll make good throws every game, but this offense is so out of sync. And I think what happened there is because they kept crumbling, that opened the door for P.J. Walker, who had 10 straight completions at one point, and his 11th was an absolute beautiful touchdown dart. And their ground game, everyone's talking about – they're cutting to highlights of Christian McCaffrey showing up in San Francisco in sunglasses. Oh, sorry, Panthers fans are saying, forget about it. They looked great on the ground.
He looked really good in the sunglasses, Christian.
He did, but
he
Dante Foreman ran over this Bucs defense.
Like super hot.
And Chuba Hubbard ran over this Bucs defense. And they're really banged up. The thing is,
a running back can only do so much, especially on this Panthers team. Yeah.
I mean, their whole Bucs secondary they lost 2 more guys in the secondary. They were already missing a bunch of people. So as soon as these guys got past the first layer, they were eating up like 35. There were a lot of long runs in this. It was just a beatdown.
This season
the Bucs are not a good team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, we're going to call a vote soon, but I know where you're going with it, and I might agree. The fact that I'm down for calling off this Bowles assance, if there ever was one, Greggy, is not even so much because of the offense.
Of course there was one. They won the Super Bowl.
But,
Can I say one thing? I think this team misses Bruce Arians.
Okay,
I really do.
That's kind of where I'm getting at, because it's not just the offense that's struggling and Tom Brady that's unable to get really warmed up and get going. The defense has really come down to earth now, and to get run over the way they did in this game, there's just nothing. What do the Bucs do well right now?
You have to look at only one side of the ball, and they're not doing things well on that side of the ball today.
You're right. They're pretty good pass defense, but you're right. They were the defining trait of a Todd Bowles defense throughout the years is a great rush defense, and they've collapsed in on themselves. And then you start to question, well, who are we really? Because if the Bucs, who have had some of the best run defenses in NFL history, and so did the Jets back in the day, by the way, when they had Todd Bowles.
Sure.
If they can't do that, then it does sort of poke a hole in, like, who are we? And Chris Godwin, I think this has been a little underrated. Sometimes you come off a torn ACL, and people are like, oh, great, we have him back. He has not been Chris Godwin of old.
And I will say one thing. You mentioned Devin White as possibly who they were calling out as Todd Bowles, as a player that was still sort of living in the Super Bowl glory. There was a huge run in this game where Devin White just looked completely out of position. And it seems to be happening week to week that there's something going on with him or someone else in the defense. So I don't think you can even say that the defense is a real strength right now. They were out-muscled today in every possible way.
It's wild.
They are injured, though.
The Carolina Panthers, by the way, won this game. Again, 13.5-point underdogs, starting a third-string quarterback after trading their franchise star, Christian McCaffrey, and a report surfaced that they had turned down 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns, which I'm not buying that. Outrageous, that reporting. Tom Brady hasn't had a losing record this far into a season since 2002.
2 first.
Let's listen to Todd Bowles and see where he stands on the Bucs.
We have to wear this on our sleeves. They got to be grown men. We're going to see what we're made of, how many people can handle adversity. And this is about as dark as it's going to be right now.
You better hope so, Todd. Before we take a break, are the Bucs good? Mark, you said no.
Not right now.
No, they were the biggest they're the people who have created the 2 biggest upsets in the NFL all season in back-to-back weeks. PJ Walker, 3-1, by the way, as starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers.
Well, today he looked like he earned that win. It's not always been the case.
Not good. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. So the Bucs aren't good, but how about the defending AFC champions? Let's check in with Cincinnati.
Now Burrow throws toward the left side. Back shoulder throw. Chase makes the catch. Cuts it in the middle of the field. Bye-bye. And the chase is unsuccessful. A 41-yard touchdown. The Bengals' 4th TD in 4 first-half drives.
My goodness. The Cincinnati Bengals are rolling. Joe Burrow passed for 345 yards in the first half. And the Bengals rolled over the Falcons 35-17. Could have been worse. They took their foot off the accelerator late. Burrow finished with 481 yards and 4 total touchdowns.
What?
We now welcome in the Pipe, Nick Shook, our AFC North consigliere. Pipe, I watched this game as well, and it's just a lot of fun to see in a season overall where sometimes the fun quotient is lacking at the quarterback position especially, and we even saw it with Burrow when he had that meltdown in week 1. To see him clicking again and to see Jamar Chase get figured out and T. Higgins healthy and Tyler Boyd showing he's one of the more underrated guys, this offense is scary good when it's turned on.
It's almost as if Zach Taylor threw caution to the wind and said, you know what? Look, we have all these weapons on offense. Let's stop trying to be somebody we're not. Let's play almost the entire game from the shotgun. Let's just throw the ball around the yard.
Why does it take 6 weeks to do that?
Oh, well, sorry, Greg. What shirt did he have on today? Which polo did he have on,
I'm just saying,
Greg?
oh, wow, he thought to be aggressive with his amazing quarterback and spread it out.
I think here's the thing.
What a thought.
Well, here's the thing, boys. Well, actually, let's hear first from Zach Taylor, who might be answering to some of the snark.
I hope you all listened to me as I got up here at 0-2 and just said, just be patient. This season is very young. We know what type of team we have. I know the faith that I have in these players and coaches, and that's what they've done.
That's actually like a V-neck T-shirt he's wearing. Greggy, I wonder, and it's fair to wonder, and I bet if you had a conversation with him, he might even say this type of offense that he's running now, he probably didn't feel comfortable running it when they couldn't protect Joe Burrow, and he's getting his butt kicked week after week to start the season. And now that the offensive line has gotten better, that perhaps they're able to run the offense that they want to, and we're seeing the results. That's just a counterpoint.
Yeah, Shooky, you tell me how the line looked today. Now this is the perfect matchup for it against the Falcons team, who's not a great pass rushing team. They lost A.J. Terrell, their best player on defense.
Lost a lot of guys in this game
early. But even a week ago, and I am taking the L here. The Rainmaker brought out the sunshine in Cincinnati. I could not have been more wrong in this game, by the way.
Cost a lot of people money, Greg.
Yes, and I might have a good one later coming up, at least to even it out. But
never chase it, Greggy.
No, this is a game where I was so wrong. Was it a game you thought, Shook, that they did protect well? The point I was trying to get to is I didn't think they've protected much better the last couple of weeks. I just think they've kind of adjusted and gotten rid of the ball. Like the Saints game, they didn't protect well at all.
Yeah, there were many times, I think, where Joe Burrow had to escape the pocket and kind of extend the play. But the difference you already mentioned, they lost A.J. Terrell early, and they didn't have Casey Hayward already. They were playing with a skeleton crew in their secondary, and the Bengals feasted on that. And again, they just kind of threw caution to the wind and said, let's throw the ball around. And you know what? Joe's going to have to get out of the pocket and extend some plays sometimes. And he might take a few hits, but we have so many weapons. It's worth the risk. We might as well go with it. And it produced a ton of points for them. And for a second there, I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but a lot of people on Twitter were. We were watching out to see if Joe Burrow would flirt with the single game passing yards record. He didn't get there because they kind of slowed down in the second half. But when the Falcons made it interesting just before halftime, I was thinking, they got to stay aggressive. He might have a shot to hit that mark. He didn't, but it was still
it was the epitome of scrappiness for the Falcons, because this game looked like a grisly blowout early, and then the Falcons put together 17 points in the last 6 minutes of the second quarter to make it interesting, but that was it. They got things straightened out, and Mark, I think with Burrow, it's interesting. They have Mixon, and they have the ability to have a balanced offense, but in this game, they're just passing the ball. They're always passing the ball, and they just don't want to give in and have that balanced offense. But I guess maybe you're just playing your strengths, and if Burrow is feeling it on a Sunday, you should be passing at the goal line and everywhere else.
He has a 13-1 touchdown to interception ratio since that opening week situation with Pittsburgh where he threw the 4 picks. I mean, he looks great. I don't know why you don't just keep doing this. This is not that different than the magic carpet ride we talked about that they went on last year. He wasn't protected well during that situation. He was on the run. He had to make plays. But the big play offense, that was what was missing in the early part of the season. It's back now. Jamar Chase is back. And I think if you can unlock this offense with Jamar Chase doing what he's doing, they can compete with really anyone in the AFC.
And Shook, on the Falcons side of this, I just want to throw this out. It's the Falcons trailed by 10-plus points for the final 50 minutes of this game. They threw the ball 13 times.
I mean,
that's them doing what they want to do.
Right.
Though.
And it's like, we talk about San Francisco's inability to play from behind. Atlanta's game plan is so flawed if anything goes out of whack. And this game was the perfect judgment of that.
Yeah, I watch them every week, and I think, this team, they show flashes of figuring it out, of getting it, of finding something that works. They just can't ever. Sometimes it's a half. It's usually the second half where they go into the halftime, make adjustments, and they're suddenly a different football team. They haven't really been able to put together 4 quality quarters of football in one game to go win these games. Remarkably, they entered today at 3-3 somehow. But yeah, you're right. 124 passing yards for Marcus Mariota. 75 came on one throw, on a touchdown pass to Damiere Byrd, which was his first reception of the season. So it's like catching lightning in a bottle with them, except the storms are few and far between. So you're kind of just stuck with what's remaining.
I love Arthur Smith. I think he's done a good job. And, last year in this with the talent they have. But if you look at their talent, the idea that Drake London and Kyle Pitts have 18 yards in this game, there's some mismanagement going on there, I think, to some degree with guys that could be making a much bigger impact on offense.
It is not too early to panic anyone that is a fantasy owner of either of those players. 6 targets for 18 yards, and this was the perfect test, unless he can't sleep at night, Arthur Smith, and he's like, God, what was I thinking today? I got to start throwing the ball. But there could be some trust issues there as well. Speaking of trust issues, Nick Shook, the Browns, man, they got to be hard for you to trust this season. Let's check in their game in Baltimore.
60-yard field goal try for rookie Cade York to tie the game. Snap is down. Kick is blocked. It is blocked. The ball will fall at the 10, and it will be down there. 2 minutes left to play in Baltimore. That has kept home alive and kept the Ravens in front.
Wow. Well, I guess there was over 2 minutes left, so Jerry Sandusky didn't even hit us with a Hayes in the barn. WBAL. Yes, the Ravens managed to avoid another fourth quarter collapse, helped in large part to some huge penalties hit with the Browns committed. In a 23-20 win, Baltimore had a big rushing day, 160 yards on the ground, and they are in a tie atop the AFC North through 7 weeks. Shooky, tell us about this game, because this seemed like another one where Baltimore had it in hand, and then things got hairy.
Lamar Jackson completed 9 passes today. That tells you everything you need to know about their offense, and yet they were able to pull out a victory because of the way their defense played, because of the way the Browns shot themselves in the foot repeatedly with decisions and with questionable penalties, which I think Browns fans have a case to complain about some of the penalties in that last drive. But it was about more than that. Baltimore, they get a strip sack of Jacoby Brissett. They turn that into a touchdown. They didn't move the ball all that well offensively, except for that last drive where they're draining clock, pounding on the ground, looking like the Ravens of 2019 and 2020. Again, a team that we haven't seen really do that with authority that much this season. That's where they shifted to, and that was without J.K. Dobbins. But really, I hate to say this, this is probably a game they maybe should have lost. And the reason I say that is because that fumble with a little bit over 3 minutes left was the worst time possible, except for the fact that they were deep in Browns territory. Most other offenses are probably going to go down there and make you pay, but the Browns offense, because they cannot put points on the board when they need to quickly at the end of games, they continue to struggle. And on the Browns side of things, man, I said last week that Kevin Stefanski had his worst performance as a coach. This was not much better. He made some bad decisions. 3rd and 2, you got 2.5 minutes left, whatever it is. You got the NFL's leading rusher and Nick Chubb in your backfield, and you take a shot to Amari Cooper that results in an offensive pass interference. It pushes you out of field goal range.
Although you got to explain the whole thing, which is that for a second there, and this is why it's got to be tough to be a Browns fan this year, and every year, I guess. It looked like they took the lead. It was a dime. Yeah. Jacoby Brissett was playing fantastic on that drive. He made a number of really good plays, and it looked like a go-ahead touchdown, and then you see the flag, and it was a good call. Cooper pushed off, so it wasn't like they got robbed, but, man, you're right. Then they get the penalty before the field goal. They always just find a way. There's no consistency in how they blow these games, but they blow them.
But so Chubb finished with 16 carries for 91, Shooky. That's how you close a game out. He's Mariano Rivera. Why isn't he closing out these games?
And this goes back to what I said about Kevin Stefanski. He just doesn't make the right decisions in these situations. Last week, it was really ugly early in the third quarter against the Patriots. He calls a bunch of pass plays. They go 3 and out, whatever. He does it again this time. 3 straight passes. The third one is the strip sack that sets up the touchdown to give the Ravens a 10-point lead. But then he adjusted quicker than usual. He went back to the run, and it paid off. They kick a field goal. They go down and score a touchdown later. They're suddenly within 3 points again. And then in that situation, 3rd and 2, I can't for the life of me understand why you don't treat that as 2 downs to get 2 yards. Yep. You have time. You're outside the 2 minute warning. You have a timeout in your pocket.
I don't like this.
There's no point in taking that shot there.
I don't like this roster. And I think that there's a lot of mismanagement that went on in the offseason. Number one, let's talk about the defensive line, where it's like you're getting run on if it's not that weak. Then there was a situation, there was a play today, and this is a Lamar Jackson thing to some degree, but it's a Browns thing too today, where Lamar dropped back to pass. And I think it was like he had about 26 seconds with no one in his face. And then he took off to run and converted. And it's just like, all right, cool. But the problem is Cleveland does not have complementary players on defense. And the players they have seem confused and out of date in this thing. Like the Joe Woods defensive scheme gives them no chance. They didn't give up 1 billion points today. But it's just there's zero trust watching the Browns that they're going to find a way to close these games. There isn't a team in the league that's blown situational football in the fourth quarter like this. And I have to say that Kevin Stefanski is probably on the hot seat. I mean, I don't know how you necessarily make a big argument to, well, is that so crazy?
I think what the argument is...
If Brandon Staley's on the hot seat, so would Kevin Stefanski
when the quarterback shows up, Watson... How the season ends, I think, will have a huge impact on whether or not
that might.
Stefanski
It doesn't help
around.
that David Njoku left the game on. He was seen in crutches in the locker room after. He's been having a great season.
He was coach of the year 2 years ago, and I think offensively, we were talking about what a great job he's done creating offense. His hiring and defensively, they're absolutely a mess. But you mentioned Deshaun Watson. You got to look at the Browns. To me, they're not like a 2-5 team. but they are 2-5 ultimately. And then you look at their next 4 weeks before Watson's suspension ends. Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, Bucks. So, you're hoping to – I look at that group and I say you're hoping to go 2-2 there, and you'd be 4-7 when Watson returns, which – probably isn't good enough.
They blew too many games in this early stretch.
They had a chance. They had a chance to set the table, and they're unable to do it because this Cleveland Browns team is simply an incomplete operation.
Quickly on Lamar, though, I know we've talked about his negatives here, and this feels like they got a little lucky. They're 250 net yards, not a good offensive performance. But his running this year is next level. It's been a little under the radar that he's leading the league in yards per carry. He is top 4 or 5 in the league in rushing yards, and in key spots in this game, 4th and 1 at the 50. If they didn't pick that up, they're going to kill Harbaugh. But if it's Lamar, he picks it up. Later in that drive, they ended up fumbling. It's 3rd and 2. Lamar goes for 11. He goes for 10 for 59. That has been the equalizer for them, and he's having a next-level rushing season, and he might break his own record in terms of the most rushing yards.
But if you
by
go to
a
back to that
ever.
Bengals game 2 weeks ago, he put the game on his back at the end with his running ability and completely that was a Lamar Jackson
he's hurt
finish
them,
right
but he's
there.
also kept them afloat.
I was going to say it should also be stated that he has not thrown more than a touchdown in a game in over a month now, and he has come down after a blazing hot start the first 3 weeks. But the running game is a big part of what he does. Shuggy, help us out. Oh, who locked it? Who locked it?
I locked it up.
Hey, Greggy.
I thought I was going to get your Ravens curse there.
Yeah.
At the end.
So you have to sweat it out. That's almost worse than the loss when you have to really deal with that heat at the end of the game.
It's not worse than a loss. I can tell you that firsthand.
Almost. We'll get to your lock in a little bit, Mark. Help us out, Shook, before we say goodbye. We're trying to figure out who's good. We're holding votes. Let's go over the 4 teams we just discussed with you. Bengals, good, right? Good.
Yeah.
Well, let me hear all 4.
Okay, we'll go one at a time.
Okay.
That carries the vote. Okay, the Bengals, Falcons.
Okay.
Not good.
No, not good.
Okay.
Not good.
The Ravens. I
Not
vote good. Okay. Ooh, not good.
I'm going to vote good.
I don't know. Are you
Lamar
seeing good the same way we're seeing good? Because
they're very uneven. Everything.
It's all relative, too.
Strong strengths, weak weaknesses. I'm going they're good. I'm going Ravens are good.
Mark? Oh.
If I could pick a middle between those, I would.
Because I don't see good as special on any level. Good. Yes, the Ravens are good.
We're not looking for special right now in 2022 NFL.
Right.
We're just looking for good. Give us something.
All right, we'll go good then.
And
We'll
finally,
go
the
then.
Brownies.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah.
Not good. Definitely not good.
All right, Chucky. Thank you, buddy. As always, you are a hero. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. It is on in northern Jersey.
Lawrence in a shotgun. Empty set again. Takes the snap. Back to throw. Steps up. Fires it to the end zone. It's caught at the 1-yard line. Giants stand him up. He's not in. And the play's going to run out. The Giants stopped him at the 1-yard line. Holy cow. And the ball game is over.
Ba Papa. WFAN. The desert doubted the swamps of Jersey. Everybody keeps doubting the G-Men. But in this NFL, a team that knows how to win at the end of a game in these sloppy affairs, that'll take you places. That'll take you all the way to 6-1 after safety Julian Love and fellow safety Xavier McKinney stopped Christian Kirk at the 1-yard line. No time left. That preserved a 23-17 win over the Jags in Duval. Mark, this is the best start for the G-Men since 2008. They do it every week this way.
I don't want to hear about this worst 6-1 team ever business. They are well coached. We've talked about that on Thursday. They're powerful. They overpowered the Jaguars. I mean, it was concerning early on because rookie right tackle Evan Neal lost. Left guard Ben Brederson lost. You've lost 40% of your line right there. And what did they do by game's
just
end?
Wandered away from the stadium? Or?
Injured.
Oh, they were injured. Okay.
Injured.
Thank you.
Lost to injury.
I didn't know if maybe they made a wrong, like a spinal tap situation under
did Mark
the stadium.
Win sandwiches on the offensive lineman?
I think you probably knew where I was going with that, but that's fine if you.
Clarity. I didn't see this game yet. I'll be watching it tomorrow.
I think you'll enjoy it, and I'll tell you why. It's my kind of football because down the stretch. I mean,
although this is like a 49-minute Game Pass setup if there ever was.
It was
one.
a lot. Greg and I both were. Greg and I were both locked in very long games.
This was a long
This
game.
went on forever. But I mean, Saquon this looked like so many other Giants games where they found a way just to close it out at the end. And you had 2 100-yard rushers. Saquon Barkley, fantastic today, 110 yards. Daniel Jones, like number one. I don't know what they're going to think about Daniel Jones at the end of the season.
That's a toughie.
It is. It's tough. It's incomplete. It depends what your other options are, where they are in the draft and all that business. But I see him being so much more well-coached than he's been in the past. And I think Brian Daboll has found a way to unlock him on the ground consistently. 107 yards today at 9.7 yards per carry. Every time you look up, he's moving the chains. There were some very designed runs for him that he was really successful with. He made a couple money throws. And this Jaguars defense is good against the run, but they just wore them down. They wore them down. And so the flip-flop there was, can Trevor Lawrence, in the end, make that game-winning throw? And we've seen this sort of over and over where he's been put in these situations where it's a last-second toss and he's had a couple incompletions. He almost did. He played one of his better games early on today. And Doug Peterson, I give Doug Peterson credit. I mean, he was really aggressive with this offense early. The Giants went down for an opening touchdown. The Jaguars tried to set the tone by going down, scoring themselves, and dialing up like Brian Daboll did in Week 1 against the Titans, a 2-point conversion, which they converted. So they hung around, but the Giants were just a little too physically powerful in this.
I would imagine, though, Doug is also rather pissed off Angelo after you have a turnover.
I'm pissed off, Angelo.
When you're going in for a score, the way the game ends to be that close. But that is a lot of that goes back to the Giants. They are the first team in NFL history to start 6-1 or better and have each of its first 7 games decided by one possession. They have 6 wins by a combined 27 points.
I mean, give me the stat. They probably don't have one decided on the last play of the game.
That's unbelievable.
Right.
And you mentioned Barkley. I was watching their final touchdown drive, the Giants. I believe it was their final touchdown drive. And Barkley makes a jump cut near about the 25 or 30-yard line and then makes 2 guys miss and then just darts down the field. And it's like there is no difference between that dude and the 2018 sensation fresh out of Penn State.
Oh, I think he's better.
He looks better, I think.
I mean,
yep.
He's more decisive.
You have to. Well, okay, so maybe he's a smarter player.
He is back to that.
But that
absolutely.
electric playmaker that, let's face it, everyone kind of, for the most part, thought that guy was gone by the end of last season. So I think he's a slam dunk choice for comeback player of the year at this point. And one of the better comeback stories in a long time.
Absolutely. I just want to mention 2 quick things. That this has been obviously a league trend, but there was a roughing the passer call on Dexter Lawrence that helped set up a Jaguars touchdown. So if Doug Peterson's upset about some things, he can't be upset about what happened here. But Brian Daboll should be. I mean, Dexter Lawrence essentially kind of tugged Trevor Lawrence around by the jersey, and it was called roughing the passer. It was egregious. Secondly, Travis Etienne had a rough catch and fumble that helped essentially set up a Giants score here. But Travis Etienne, week after week, to me, looks like one of the better running backs in the league. He is a fascinating watch, and they've got something there. There's no doubt about it.
Their running game has been awesome. Their team has totally changed. And, didn't he fumble on the one after like a 49-yard
Yes, it was a killer turnover. It was a killer turnover.
But their team has totally changed throughout the course of the season. Now they've got a really strong running game. They have no outside receivers. Like, everyone is just an inside slot guy, and you saw that on the last drive. And they got close, but they can't go outside. They don't have a guy who can win outside. Kirk is not that guy. But their defense, like, we started the year trying to talk up like this defense could be special, and they just, gave up how many yards in plays to Matt Ryan last week, and then they get totally steamrolled here at the end and give up 400 yards. That's the best day of the Giants. So their defense isn't special. It's just like a defense. And this is one of those games, though. There's not much separating those two teams. You got to admit, but one's 2-5 and one's 6-1. That's the football gods. It's a little bit of luck and a lot of verve.
And I know there's a lot to it that goes into how the desert sets these things, but that's always so stunned by the spread of this game. The Giants not getting the respect from the desert, because this is happening every week, and I think it's sustainable. I think they'll continue to win games like this.
Well, it's the numbers. It's at first, for a second, I thought you were, who's really saying they're the worst 6-1 team ever? And then I was
even a week ago, people were saying that about the 5-1 Giants.
Actually, I think Football Outsiders ran the numbers, and just they're not putting any opinion into it. But in terms of their DVOA and the numbers of how good the defense is, they were the worst 5-1 team ever.
Yeah.
So we're saying
the Vikings are close.
Stick it up their butts.
That's
Stick
what
it right
they
up their
just
butts.
did. That's what they did.
No disrespect.
They were 18th coming into this week.
I like DVOA just as much as the next guy potentially, but I don't care what
Take
they have to say about this. Right.
And whoop.
We lean on that stuff all the time, but this is something a little bit different about this football team. They play the Seahawks next week. That's a spicy game.
Would you crumple it up first, or what would you do? Shred it? I don't know.
I actually have a theory of what I would do, but I don't think we should talk about it on these airwaves. But
With the spreadsheets?
Yeah, how to administer it. Let's check in. Let's see if we had another New York sweep.
Toss sweep to the left. Ball with blockers in front. Has a crease to the 45, to the 50. Left sideline 40. Down the sideline 30. He's gone! 20, 10, 5. Touchdown! Breece Hall. House call. The Jets take the lead.
Crushingly, that is the final touchdown of the year for Breece Hall, who a little later in the first half against the Broncos got hit on the knee, suffered an injury that Robert Saleh believes is very serious and most likely season-ending ACL tear. Crushing news for the Jets and their young offense filled with playmakers, but the Jets persevere. 16-9 over the Broncos, leaning on their defense to carry the day on a day that not just Breece Hall, but Corey Davis, one of their top wide receivers, and Elijah Vera Tucker, their star offensive lineman, all exited for the game in the first half. They get by on a day that Russell Wilson is out with that hamstring issue. That it was just weird because we talked about it on the Thursday show that looked like he might play, and he was saying he had Wolverine blood and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden he struggled and limped through a late week practice and was inactive. So that led to Brett Rippon, who, he's Brett Rippon. And the Jets really gave them the opportunity, Denver, to get a much-needed home win here, committing a ton of penalties and being a little sloppy early on. Once Hall exited, Zach Wilson was not able to get much out of the offense, and that's a very real – there's some real concerns around the Jets offensively now that Hall's out. But at the end of the day, the Jets are 5-2 now, and they're 4-0 away from the Meadowlands.
Wow.
And this was another game where it was the defense, and I'll point to Sauce Gardner, who broke up the fourth down pass to clinch the game. That showed like they can win these games just like the Giants in a very unsettled, muddled landscape. They can find a way, and they have more often than not lately.
I have a couple concerns. I mean, obviously, like without Breece Hall, what they were becoming on offense with him was someone that I thought could shield the attack from Zach Wilson's up and down nature. Largely down. Watching this not as closely as you, Dan, but I don't see it with Zach Wilson right now. And that's, record aside, I think that's your concern going forward if the running game is not going to be what it was.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Michael Carter is very good. He's going to kind of step into a much bigger role for the Jets. Maybe they trade for someone. Melvin Gordon's on the outs.
Could trade for Christian McCaffrey.
In Denver.
These two coaching staffs know each other.
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay. I'm just saying it's an option. It's something you could explore.
You would have to top the offer that they just gave up to.
Pick up the phone.
That would be a lot.
Pick up the phone.
I don't think San Francisco is looking to flip Christian McCaffrey like a house.
I don't know how this works. Just threw that out there as an option.
But anyway, yes, I think the Jets are in a lot of trouble now if Wilson continues to struggle. Now, I got to give Denver credit on the defensive side of the ball. Once again, Greg, week after week, and this has made it even more frustrating for fans of this team in an AFC West where no one's running away with the division. They are putting forth an effort that's keeping their team in games, and they did it again. They had Wilson in a blender in this game, and they just don't get enough on offense. They get hardly anything at all.
Right. They outgained the Jets. They only gave up 260 yards, 10 first downs to the Jets. But that Hall play, and Michael Carter had a 37-yard play. Like, the Jets haven't moved the ball at all with Zach Wilson, but they have had these explosive plays that have been enough. They're going to have to be a defensive team. It's just frustrating, I think, if you're a Jets fan, because you did see offensive pass production with Joe Flacco. I'm not saying you want to go back to Joe Flacco, but you did see Garrett Wilson, ball out. And Corey Davis, they said it's a PCL injury. They don't think it's going to be anything major. That still might be a week or two, but he will be back. But you do want to be able to use these offensive skill position players. And yeah, now it's not going to just be Breece Hall coming up with plays, but they have such good depth. Like Carter's a great example of that.
He is, and you guys know I was very down before we started the show because a
little concerned about you, to be honest, but not now. You've been very
through
professional.
You
know what did it? It's podcasting with us. I mean, it's just like this is a brotherhood. We're here where we feel comfortable.
I think so.
We're on the field.
I think that's what it is.
You think so?
It's been a long time since the Jets had like a young running back that hit the ground and looked like a potential star, and it's so painful and so predictable. But he breaks that long touchdown run. And I head to Twitter feeling good about myself and my team. Breece Hall is a star. And not 15 minutes later, he gets his knee blown out. He gets caught up in some traffic, and you hear a scream. And I'm like, they cut away from the play. And I'm like, I don't think he got up. And sure enough, it was a serious knee injury. So they have to find a way. And ultimately, here's the thing. Even with Breece Hall done for the year, and we hope it's not one of those, like we talked about, Chris Godwin situations or Michael Gallup, where the guy has the ACL and he comes back and he's still not the guy. Sometimes you guys has the ACL and he's fine the next year. Yep. So you hope that's what it is for Breece Hall. They have pieces and depth to still be proficient on offense, but if Zach Wilson is going to be the guy he's been the last 2 weeks, that's going to be what haunts them this year and what's going to doom them to mediocrity. So with that said, the Giants good, obviously. Except for Football Outsiders, but they might feel differently.
I don't want Giants Twitter to come after me.
Are you going to go 42 and 46, Greg, here?
I'm just saying you have to think about it at least, whether they're going to be good moving forward. But they've earned good. There's a lot of good teams now.
This Broncos team.
I'm just saying every week's crazy.
Mark, do you hear Greg?
What?
I attempt to tune out some of what Greg says, and that was the case a minute ago. I don't know what he was.
They're 6-1, Greg.
Yeah.
They're good right now.
Okay.
Just have fun. We're looking for fun in this regular season.
Do you know
right
what
now,
happened in 42 and then also in 46?
It's not about that.
I know.
Not about
but he's got to get over. If you're able to come do the show based on what you've dealt with, he's got to deal with Super Bowls from a long time ago.
Good is a low bar. That's fair.
This Broncos team is like book notes on C-SPAN. Like it's about that vibrant to watch, and they're annoying me. And I did ask you the question, Dan.
I'm annoyed now.
At some point, does Nathaniel Hackett maybe just like, he goes into his office in Denver, just leaves his wallet, his cell phone, maybe takes out $11,000 in cash and just hard vanishes in a rental car.
Larry David did this in the 70s when he was a writer on SNL. He was there and nobody liked him, and he wasn't getting any of his sketches on the air. And one day he just didn't go to work.
Yeah.
And then he changed his mind a couple days later and went into work, and they were like, "No, what are you doing here? You
don't belong here anymore."
Right. He could try that. He could do a soft quit.
Oh, look at that lock.
Oh, I locked up the Jets.
Came out of it.
Did.
Came out of it.
And I forgot to play this during the last recap.
Why? Oh, what happened?
West Bros locked the Jaguars.
Why? Why would they do that?
Or
why would Nick do that?
Nick did.
You know what, Nick? It's not about the record. It's about the NFL Network airtime and what you're doing with it. And you're running into the end zone every week with that airtime. So
I don't see.
Keep posting L's.
I'm just trying to.
You could have both.
Positives. Yeah, that's
you could have it all. You could also win, and then
great.
right.
And by the way, it's getting late early for the Broncos. They're 2 games back of the playoffs right now. I know. The Chiefs are.
It's getting late early for the Broncos. They stink.
They're going to the playoffs.
I'm just saying. You're saying like no one's running away with it. We've seen enough of these teams come back.
Yes.
After, especially a team with literally the #1 defense in the league right now. It's hard to just totally cancel them out. But it's getting pretty close here. 2 games back is pretty significant.
It's the offense that stinks, and the game
energy.
plan of the offense that I think that stinks, and maybe Russell Wilson that stinks. And that was the first time I'd locked the Jets in 68 weeks, according to the
And you
great
previously were, I read, 0-4 at locking the Jets. So this is a new territory.
It is a new era. It is a new
Jets
team.
I want to say yes, but I'm very good. We're good. Maybe troubled now.
Are the Jets good?
I think the problem with this exercise is good is a low enough bar that, their defense is frisky.
I'd say yes.
That is enough.
Maybe we'll have to go through this at the end of the show. All right, let's head across the sidewalk to SoFi Stadium, where there was a 4-2 team playing, and a frisky team with a superstar quarterback named Geno. Surely there are good teams here. Let's check in.
1st and 10, toss to Walker, goes right side, has a little running room. Parkinson out front. Here comes up the sideline. He's on the run, 40, down to the 30. Are they going to catch him? I don't think so. 15, 10, Seahawks, 74 yards. They toss it to Ken Walker III. He gets fired out of a Gatling gun, and he is gone up the right sidelines. 74, and nobody got a whiff.
I love it, Steve Rabel. Oh, the Bongos are out. K-I-R-O. I like that. Shot out of a Gatling. Usually, shot out of a cannon. Enough with the cannons. It's 2022. We got hypersonic missiles now. We got lasers.
He hit 22 miles an hour. People are getting excited. That's the fastest by a ball carrier this
22?
season. 22? He broke 22.
Wow, look at that.
We're never going to make miles per hour a thing, but we're trying.
Unbelievable. The Seahawks.
You're rate of trying.
Behind Ken Walker III and 2 touchdown passes from Geno Smith. Rumble past the Chargers. Football's worst 4-3 team. 37-23, yes, at SoFi Stadium. Greggy, obviously, the Jets are dealing with it now with Breece Hall. Rashad Penny goes out of the lineup with a season-ending injury, and you have Ken Walker, who is a big-time player, it looks like.
He is incredible. He's not what his draft profile was, at least what I thought, which was more of a bruiser. This guy has juice. He has patience. He's got wiggle. Maybe he's too high profile to be a guy, but I want him to be my guy along with Geno Smith just because he's so much fun
Mark,
to watch.
Update.
I've taken Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker III is off.
He's such a
big
board.
To be honest, like it's a little bit impossible to join the Seahawks hype train at this point. With like,
you could come.
There's no room.
You could come.
I'll find my own thing.
They are fun. I do remember like 4 games into the season, I said, Geno's playing so well. And he played well today, had a couple bad throws, had an interception, but played well. But I expect that each week. And we said back then, they've got like the last-ranked running game, the last-ranked defense. If they just pick those up, this could be a frisky team. And suddenly you look, and Kenneth Walker is running through secondaries, and their defense in back-to-back weeks has been solid to better. I know they gave up 23 points here, but there was they forced 2 turnovers in the first quarter, which really set the tone, and there was a 6-drive stretch where the Chargers went 5 straight punts and then a turnover on downs. And that's all you need for this offense. It sounds crazy, but if you give this offense enough chance, it's clearly a top 10 offense right now.
Eckler had a tacky late touchdown to make this thing look more competitive. Seattle badly outplayed the Chargers in their building in this game. And, it's on the Chargers side of things, it's a thing. It's a problem. Their offense is underachieving, and I think everyone that bought in hard on the Chargers, and that includes this podcast heading into the season, bought into Justin Herbert as an MVP candidate. None of this is looking so hot right now because I feel like the last month or so, and I know they were winning before today.
They were a 3-game winning streak going to this game.
Even the head coach said he doesn't feel like we're on a winning streak, and then you saw them play like the coach feels the team is, which is very subpar.
They'll never be in first place in this division again all season. It's over. I don't mean that they're over entirely, but
Sessler.
No, I think there are major problems here. And I mean, Justin Herbert threw an unusual interception for him today. He was stripped of the ball, back-to-back turnovers. I mean, this is just
could have been picked off a couple more times.
This Chargers offense to me is just poorly organized, poorly coached. Not fun to watch right now. Which is like if you're doing that with Justin Herbert, that's on you because you've got something special here than basketball.
That's true. More bad news for the Chargers. J.C. Jackson, who's their big-time, one of their big free agent acquisitions or offseason acquisitions, suffers a bad leg injury. It's a dislocated kneecap. He gets carted off in an air cast, and you know what that means. Almost always his season is over, and it's been a disastrous
Mike Williams looked like he suffered a pretty bad knee injury. I mean, it's just starting to fall apart a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
What happened with Keenan Allen today?
He played a little bit in the first half and then didn't come back for the second. They have a bye week. No team has needed to buy more. But, that Mike Williams play to me was so typical of this Chargers season. It's a 4th and 11 in a pretty hopeless situation. Herbert gets out of quick pressure, makes an incredible throw to Mike Williams. Everything to Mike Williams is so hard, who makes an incredible catch, yet it was short of the first down, and his knee and ankle get bent backwards awkwardly, game over. Then he's now going into the bye week with what could be a significant injury that he needs to recover from. Yeah, they lose Jackson. I mean, they did lose their left tackle. Corey Linsley's been banged up. Like the quality of the players that they've been losing is kind of outrageous. It's part of the equation.
And just to sum up, questions about the leadership and the decision making behind the scenes on that team. Keenan Allen is one more week away from the bye and a hamstring that he hurt in week 1. The fact that he played and then instantly hurt himself again, not a great look. J.C. Jackson came back early this season to play that Thursday night game against the Chiefs when he wasn't right, and he was never right, and then his knee gets jacked up in this game. Justin Herbert, we know the story of that Thursday night game with the rib and leaving him in. I even thought at the end of this game, I mentioned the Fugazi, Austin Eckler, Herbert touchdown at the end of the game. What are these guys even playing for? Like, why are they being so cavalier with these players, especially given their injury issues this year?
There's a pattern there. I agree with you.
We shouldn't overlook what the the Seahawks defense did, though. I really think they're building something. They changed what they were doing. Darrell Taylor played well for a second straight week, made a big play. Like, their defensive line should be good. Woolen's making plays on the ball. Like, the coverage was all over the Chargers. And the Seahawks are in first place. Like, they're a real story.
Wow.
To me, they're good. I think they're a good team because they're a good offense. I feel like I know what I'm getting out of Geno every week. He had some dimes. They lost DK Metcalf.
Wait. We didn't do the vote. That was just one vote.
Okay. That's just one. Well, that's
I
my
vote
vote.
Yes, too.
Okay, good.
I also do. What do you need to see? I mean,
they lost DK Metcalf pretty early in this game, and that's like the moment you're like, oh, this offense is going to kind of fall apart. But they end up getting Marquise Goodwin for 2 touchdowns, and then Walker goes
Hopefully that's
crazy.
not serious for Metcalf.
I really
because that
hope
will be. That does change who they are if that's long term.
That would be depressing.
Chargers, I don't think they're good. I'm going to vote no on Chargers.
They have a good roster. They're not a good football team right now. I'd say the same.
All right. Let's move on.
That hurts.
Just right now.
So now set up first and 10 on the Texans 15. Delayed hand up to Jacobs. Huge hole up the middle, 10. Cuts right side 5. Touchdown Jacobs. The hat trick in the end zone. His 3rd rushing touchdown of the day.
What the hell is going on with Josh Jacobs?
I love it.
I mean, I'm not complaining, but what the hell's going on here? Josh Jacobs, who you heard from before the season started as yet another quote-unquote first-round bust, whose contract, his 5th-year option was not being picked up, and the Raiders clearly under new leadership seem to be in the direction of moving on. He has gone absolutely off these last 3 weeks. 20 for 143 for 3 touchdowns in this game. A very important game for the Raiders, who win 38-20 over the Texans. And Mark, this is a game they absolutely had to have. And to see Jacobs now stacking these big-time weeks, it does add an element to their offense that they kind of needed.
Yeah, they've changed who they are on offense, and I really love what they've done. And I think Josh McDaniels, patiently kind of wanted to see what he had, and he found out that Josh Jacobs is about to have his career season. He's having it right now. They were down 20-17 entering the 4th quarter in this.
It's crazy.
And then they simply took over.
That's gut check time for a team that's lost a ton of narrow games. I like that.
Yeah, because they saved their season. I mean, we'll see what's to come. But had they gone 1-5 with a loss to the Texans, check you later. But 4 straight touchdown marches of 10 plays, 82 yards, 10 plays, 75 yards, a 76-yard touchdown drive, another 76-yarder. And Jacobs, to me, is someone that had the ability to absolutely lift the offense and wear down the Texans. Like the Texans on the flip side played a good game. Davis Mills played the best game of his year. I mean, they don't have a lot of parts, but Dameon Pierce as a runner is very powerful as himself. He had 92 yards, and they have just enough through the air where, like, I thought Mills had some money throws today where he stood in against the rush and delivered. And you've been waiting for that game for him because I think last year you saw little sparks. Today, I saw it again. This offense does not need to revolve around Derek Carr, which I like. You're getting just enough of a Devontae Adams on certain drives, but they're without Waller at the moment, and Jacobs makes up for it. And if they can win games this way, I kind of like who they can be from here on out because they're a physical team.
Their offense is good. They've scored 33 points a game the last 3 weeks.
Nearly beat the Chiefs.
Including against the Broncos defense. They're the only team that's hurt the Broncos defense this year. I watched this game, and we made fun of Mark on the preview show for drafting it so early. Now you still could have drafted it in the last.
Make fun. It was a very obvious gaffe in terms of the draft strategy.
Your draft strategy.
It wasn't critical of Mark the Man.
This was an enjoyable game, so I picked an enjoyable game.
I ended up watching this game myself.
Well, that's your opinion.
And both quarterbacks played outstanding.
Yeah,
there were dimes all over the place, and these might be two of the best 5 running backs in the league right now. Play a game. Go watch this on Game Pass and count how many times Josh Jacobs and Dameon Pierce didn't make the first guy miss. It's just like automatic. Like there was some good football being played in this game.
The Raiders finished with a season-high 400 yards of offense. And, what I said earlier about, they were down 3 points, got the win, that's good. Because I think a team like the Raiders, especially with their soft schedule coming up, you just need to bank that, feel-good win where you close out a team and you kind of are able to lose that, man, this team's going to come and get us at the end because it happens to us every week. I just would not be surprised if they are right in the thick of things in a few weeks, but we shall see. One at a time for the Yankees. I mean the Raiders, but both.
Okay, Dan.
Let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. All right. The AFC South, I should say, always seems to come back to 2 teams. They have a huge showdown on Sunday. The division at stake before Halloween. Let's check it out. Weird scheduling is what I'm saying.
Ryan gets rid of it quickly. It's intercepted. 30, 40, 50. Adams 40, 30, 20, 10, 5. End zone. Touchdown. Titans. Andrew Adams to the house. Oh, what a great play. Wow, I love that. So does everybody else in this stadium.
Well, let's not speak for everyone.
Not Frank Reich.
I'm sure there were some Colts fans in there that were furious. Mike Keith and Dave McGinnis still with a spicy call, and I like it. WGFX. Andrew Adams did have the 76-yard pick 6. A big play for the victorious Tennessee Titans. 19-10 over the Colts. We now bring in our AFC South consigliere, Justin Graver. What's up, buddy? This was a big one. I say slightly in jest, but the fact that both these teams have now finished up their head-to-heads, home and homes, I should say, by winning both, you just get a feeling that they just ran away with this division, the Titans.
Well, they've got to take care of business where it matters now down the stretch, but as far as being in the best position you could possibly hope to be after an 0-2 start, I think the Titans are doing well. 5th straight win over the Colts, 2nd sweep in as many years. So that's nice.
That feels good for Gravedigger, especially.
Mike Vrabel owns Frank Reich right now. Andrew Luck owned the Titans for his entire career, but now the tables have turned.
To say the least.
And, that's a good call, Justin, because it hasn't been dominant. It hasn't been flashy. Nobody's talking about the Titans, but you're kind of used to that, I know, and that's a bit of a chip on the shoulder for Titans fans. But they've gotten off the mat, won 4 games in a row, and they're kind of right back to where you thought they would be around this time, so you got to give them credit for that.
This game was not entirely exciting. I talked a little bit on Thursday's show about how it was the 5th-ranked CBS crew. They were right. It was the 5th best game probably on CBS today. But it was fun for Titans fans. Bud Dupree came back in this game after he was hurt. He played a little bit after coming back and then was hurt again. 8 pressures in this game, working mostly against Dennis Kelly, the former Titan who stepped in to play left tackle for the Colts. Got a sack. It was the defense that did it. I mean, the Titans were on a red zone hot streak, 11 straight touchdowns in the red zone. Going into this game, they were 0 for 2, kicked 4 field goals, didn't score a touchdown on offense, but still win 19-10 because the Colts couldn't move the ball either.
Where are we with Ryan Tannehill? Was that limping around out there? And I heard something about a walking boot after the game.
Ryan Tannehill turned his ankle on a play. He missed 1 snap. Malik Willis came in, handed it off. Tannehill came back the next series and finished out the game. But that was that was midway through. When was that? That was right at the beginning of the 4th quarter. First play of the 4th quarter, he turned his ankle. For the rest of the game, he attempted 2 passes. And Henry had
that's where you could have listened to the great John Madden. and what he told Dan Hanzus famously was,
in the John,
if you don't know the injury status when it happened, just make it up.
Make it up. Yeah.
Sure. Make it up. Sure. More than likely, people will not check. Derrick Henry also, again, he's kind of been the face. If you had to pick one player that's kind of symbolized the season for the Titans, it's Henry, who once again had a big day, his third straight 100-yard rushing game, season high 128 on 30 totes. The team started slow. Henry started slow. He's warmed up. The team's warmed up. That is not a coincidence.
Right. It's not a coincidence. And Henry was like the engine that won this game towards the end. The Colts turned it over with 3.5 minutes left. Frank Reich had used all of his timeouts on the previous drive, one on a challenge that was just a phenomenal catch by Austin Hooper. Got the ball knocked out of his hands, but then reclaimed it before it hit the ground. That was basically the game-winning play because it put the Titans in field goal range to really put them up by 2 scores. Frank Reich used his timeouts on that drive with like 5 minutes left in the game, hoping, I guess, to get the ball back with more time. But it ended up being that when the Titans had the ball after the turnover with 3.5 minutes left, they only had to pick up a couple first downs, which Henry did, and that iced the game.
What's happening to your physical body during these Titans games when they turn in your favor?
Stiffens.
Whoa.
I
wasn't asking that.
Are you getting nervous?
It tenses up.
Like a nervous. The whole.
Yeah. What are you saying?
Emotional detachment.
I just asked a question.
No, emotional detachment. Really?
You please.
I mean, some numbness has sunk in.
Don't you like own a Titans website or something? I mean, give me a
started
break.
one that I don't run anymore because of the whole
he has
awkward subject.
conflict of
80% of his
interest.
wardrobe is
but he also runs a blog. Give me a break. This
detach emotionally.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Don't lie on the podcast.
The difference in this division might be like they both have terrible offensive lines. But one quarterback's a little better to deal with it than the other. And the Colts, to me, are such a 2022 team. I don't know how they're 3-3-1. They're so far from good.
Not good.
We know their offense isn't good, but like they are an example of this season because defenses are letting you just throw the ball 7 yards at a time, ultimately, if that's what you're going to do. And that's why Ryan threw it 50-something times last week. He threw it 44 times this week, and yet they didn't top 300 yards and they got 10 points. Like, if there's just something about my brain breaks that he's completed 33 passes and they have 10 points, but that very much is like the NFL in 2022. A lot of completed passes going nowhere.
This team beat the Chiefs. That is
that was the
flukiest
game I've ever seen. They did not deserve it.
Here's the good news, Justin. It's the G-Men corollary here. They are perfectly built for this NFL. They run a ball control offense with a Hall of Fame running back and a quarterback that's not going to kill you very often, and they are battle-tested.
Unless it's the playoffs against the Bengals.
We're not talking the playoffs. And they're battle-tested with a good coaching staff. They will win a lot of close games this year, and we're going to look up at the standings in January. They're going to be 12-5. And you might even have a bye again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm taking the under
the
on
Bills
that.
The Bills have to lose a game at some point.
I said might, but I think this is going to be a team that ends up winning 11 games. And again, you'd be like, what? I'm going to pick against them in the playoffs. And then you'll probably be proven correct in that, but it is what it is.
They're the only team in either Southern division to have a winning record.
Oh, wow.
I got the Vapors talking about the Southern.
Got to relegate those two divisions.
I'm just saying, like, the Panthers are one game out in the NFC South. Everyone's alive.
One more game before Sunday Night Football. Let's head to Landover, Maryland.
Daniels in the slot to the left. Snap to
That's where it
Heineke.
is.
3rd and 9. Pressure up the middle. Lobs one towards McLaurin, who comes back for it and makes a catch at the Packers 43-yard line.
He lobs it. I love
catch
that.
by McLaurin. First down, Washington.
Talk about clutch.
Bram Weinstein, and that was not, I would tell you what, that's not London Fletcher. That's Julie Donaldson with the call for WBIG. Listen, Tyler Heineke, he's got pluck for days. And you don't want him starting 10 games in a row, but he steps in. You squint hard enough, and there's a little Favre to him. He just kind of looks like Favre a little bit. Sometimes just throws the ball for grabs, and good things happen. And good things happen for the Commanders in a 23-21 win over the Packers. We got to ask if they're good.
Do we?
Mark, we'll start with you on this one. Let's start on a personal note. You moved out of a lock. Who was your original lock? The Chiefs?
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Who were victorious.
Easily.
This is why this is part of what makes you Mark, and part of why I love you, Mark. You're so unpredictable. and volcanic in some ways that you moved away from the Chiefs and then chose a team that you actively dislike
and don't
to
believe
root
in.
for. You expect, the football gods, they're obviously going to smite you on that one, and they did. You took the L.
Yeah, they dropped an old ancient hammer on me today, and I'll tell you something. I will never, ever again lock up the Packers ever in my life. I am not. They are so. I know that they've been on a tugboat timeout. They're on a Cessy lifetime ban.
Well, it's got to have some. How about a Cessy sit-in?
Cessy suspension.
Cessy suspension for a lifetime suspension. I cannot believe. First of all,
you would have enjoyed sitting and watching this game with Mark.
It was also the first half. And Greg, you can explain. Like the first half ended while the game I was watching was deep into the third quarter, and it's like this thing went on for 4,000 years. It was as drawn out as possible and unpleasant to watch in my circumstances. But what did you think of it,
when
Greg?
It was 23-21 and the Packers made a touchdown to make it close at the end, Sessler exploded and was just like please, relieve me. I will love you forever, Packers, if you win this game. And then
this is why I don't do fantasy football. This is why I don't play cornhole with you guys, because I get too competitive. So I know not to go down that road.
The locks competition, you are super into it.
This was a double lock loss, by the way.
Yeah. I should have
Someone passed on their own team, the Titans, and went with this.
Oh, Gravedigger, shame on you.
If I had locked the Titans, they would have blown it.
That's not how.
I control how they.
Let's talk about the game. Let's before we get to Washington and the good stuff there. We'll save the best for last. There, okay. The Packers are the bigger story because the Packers, instead of a get right game against a backup quarterback in Landover, Maryland, they instead lose again, which led to questions for the team after the game, including to Aaron Rodgers.
Righting the ship and getting the playoffs, does that feel plausible right now?
Damn right it does. I'm not worried about this squad. In fact, this might be the best thing for us this week. Nobody's going to give us a chance. Going to Buffalo and Sunday Night Football, the chance to get exposed, might be the best thing for us.
I don't know if they can.
I don't like
and
this dime store psychology.
A run to where?
There.
They can run, but where are they running to?
Well, they have their own issues in the playoffs. That's how they got into tugboat timeout. But their issues on offense, it's just not happening. They make that beautiful throw, that scramble where Rodgers flushes out of the pocket and then hits Aaron Jones to give them life in the second half. And it's like, why isn't there more of that? Why is everything so hard, especially with the passing game? Greg, there was one moment on a key 4th and 1 where they have Aaron Jones and an absolute hammer in A.J. Dillon. And they try a pass to Romeo Doubs,
who's never met a pass he couldn't drop.
Right.
I think he had his hands on 4 passes today, and he had 0 receptions.
And that's my point. This is an ongoing situation with the receivers here. It has kind of been a worst-case scenario where he's struggling to find someone he trusts. Yet the game plan remains this Rodgers will figure it out in big spots, and they're not figuring it out.
Right, and he was seen mouthing to the sideline after a separate possession that ended on a Romeo Doubs drop. Although I would point out Rodgers threw that pass low, and his accuracy was not great throughout today. He's playing through that thumb injury. He's not playing well. Doubs isn't playing well. But that was another situation where they're not going to the running game, and he was mouthing to the sideline, what are we effing doing?
I saw that.
What are we doing? And
it's like a weekly cutaway to him doing something of frustration of that nature.
They had 80 yards going into the fourth quarter of this game. They had 3 good fourth quarter drives. One of them ended on down, so it ended up being a heartbreak on that 4th down play. But then they had a touchdown and the garbage time drive. They had 80 yards, the Green Bay Packers, and it all comes together because there's a lack of rhythm certainly on offense and a lot of quick drives. There were, I think, out of their first 6 drive, 5 of them were punts, 3 of them 3 and outs, another couple where they just get 1 first down and punt. But part of it is their defense can never get off the field. So it's a combination. The Washington Commanders had 37 minutes of time of possession, and in the second half they had a 16-play, 8-minute, 48 second long field goal drive, and that's something we've seen in the second half of all their games. The Washington running game was really pretty dynamic and mixed it up throughout the day. Heineke did not play well. I'll get to him in a second, but it's all like of one piece to me. Like the offense and the defense, and Alan Lazard goes out, and like all the targets, Dan, are to Lazard and Jones. And you're saying, why isn't more of that? It's because like they don't have more of those players that Rodgers trusts. So 17 targets to those two guys, and when you don't get those two guys, you got nothing.
And let's get to Washington in a second, but just one more note. The Sammy Watkins play where it was a deep throw and he was being interfered with, but he kind of pulled up on the route, and the throw was so over his head that they picked up the flag to the point where the announcer's like, was Sammy Watkins hurt there? And it's like, was he actually injured? I don't think so. He either wasn't running the route right or he doesn't have any speed left in those legs. It's just very sloppy on that side on a day where Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon had 12 carries combined.
Wow. And one last thing on them, too. I think Rodgers is afraid of his offensive line. And
they don't have David Bakhtiari today.
They didn't have Bakhtiari today.
Concern.
And they're playing a team that was one of the highest rated teams in terms of pressure, sacks, pressure rate. Okay, one quarterback in this game actually was hit 10 times. That was Taylor Heineke. One offensive line almost pitched the Golston on Washington. That was Green Bay. Rodgers was barely touched because he wasn't holding on to the ball. He was getting rid of it quickly. So I think he was almost like spooked. You never see them make a play. I was just watching this Packers offense and be like, someone make a play. No one's making a play, and that includes Aaron Rodgers. He's not playing well, and in this time, I don't think he made good decisions in terms of when he got rid of the ball.
And on the Washington side, Terry McLaurin, his numbers aren't great this year because quarterback play has been so erratic, and in general, the Commanders' offense is pretty middling at best. But he made several big plays in this game, including the beautiful touchdown on a great throw from Heineke. They have to make sure. Curtis Samuel's been nice for them and has found his role. They have Brian Robinson back there with Antonio Gibson. But Terry McLaurin's got to be targeted 10 times a game. He's the guy. He's the dude. I know you agree with that one, Greg.
Yeah, he won them this game. We put so much on quarterbacks, and I'll mention Heineke in a second, but sometimes you just need your guys to go make a play, and that was McLaurin today. 2 plays, including that lob. I love that play call. I mean, that call by the radio play-by-play there that was like, Heineke lobs it up, which is what a lot of his passes are. And McLaurin went and just got it. And he beat Jair Alexander multiple times in this game, including on that last drive a couple times. That's just like your best player beating the other guy's best player. He did it on the touchdown throw too. And Heineke, to his credit, gave Samuel and McLaurin a chance to make plays a few times, and they did it. He could not have been worse to start this game. And
you were down on him when we were discussing this during
he was 1 for 8 at one point with a couple interception or 1 interception, and at that point he had 3 dropped interceptions and an interception to start the game. He could have had 4 interceptions in the first quarter of this game, but the Packers couldn't finish.
He's got pluck, though.
And you know what I thought, though? I thought he's been listening to our sound drop all season. You know what it is?
What?
It's like you're going to go ahead and
as we all know, decided to really go ahead and start to take command.
And I felt like Heineke's performance in this game, he knows that sound drop.
If you just tuned in, this is our Super Bowl 57 coverage of Commanders-Packers with Gregg Rosenthal.
It really was a fascinating game. That he was setting up like that part of the drop. The first quarter was maybe.
If we left the room, do you think he would just keep talking?
The next 3 quarters,
I don't think he even knows we're in the room.
Was taking command. He took command. He
did, and he'll be back again because Carson Wentz is injured for the foreseeable future. All right.
Would you please shut up?
All right, that's it for us and the stream version of the flagship program around the NFL. Thank you to everybody for watching. You can check out the Sunday Night Football recap of Dolphins and Steelers on the podcast side of things, which you can get 5-6 times a week. We got all the content for you. Until then, heed the call.